Hello and welcome to the John Ark Show. Today we're going to interview the legendary MMA fighter and WWF wrestler Dan The Beast Severn. Severn is considered one of the leading pioneers of mixed martial arts and the first world-class wrestler to compete in the Ultimate Fighting Championships, the UFC. He is best known for his success in the early years of the UFC, where he became a Triple Crown champion and a world record holder of 13 championships. Before we begin, I want to encourage you to subscribe to our channel for free. You can also like, comment, and follow us. We're going to have a lot of great celebrity interviews coming up, so make sure to click on that notification bell so you can be notified every time we upload a new episode. Also, we ask that you post a link to today's show on all your social media to help spread the word. Now, let's say hello to Dan The Beast Severn. Hello, Dan. Welcome to the John Ark Show. How are you today, my friend?
Just another beautiful day in paradise here, John.
There you go. Dan, you were born and raised in Michigan, and you grew up on a farm. What is it about fighters who are raised on a farm that gives them that incredible farmer strength in the ring and that makes them such killers when they fight? Did you work a lot of long, hard hours on the farm? Is that where that strength comes from?
I would say that the responsibilities given to a young, I don't even want to say the athlete. I just said that just being a young member of the farming community, you have responsibilities that have been bestowed upon you at a very young age. So I had to get up and take care of the animals before I was to be taken care of, before catching the bus or a ride to school. So yes, your responsibilities twice a day, early in the morning before you went to school, and no matter how late it was that you returned from school, if that was after a away game, a practice, or whatever. So sometimes that second feeding or second milking or something like that maybe taking place 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, but it took place.
What time did you get up in the morning?
Well, no, I mean, well, early wise, I mean, I'm trying to think. I got to think back a few decades now. What was that? You'd probably have to roll out sometime right around at 6 a.m.
There you
just so
go.
that you could get the chores. I mean, one of my chores, John, was milking Peggy the milk cow for about 7, 8 years. Was That was one of my jobs? Not with a machine, by hand.
So, did you get into a lot of street fights as a kid?
Never,
Never. That's
never.
interesting. That's very interesting. How old were you when you decided to become a fighter for a living?
37.
That's interesting.
Yeah, again, I started at an age where most would have been retiring, but that's when opportunity presented itself. I was never looking to get into a fight, but it's just something that an opportunity came. I tried my hand at it and found out, I've got some skills in this area. Let's explore a little bit further.
You know
I
what?
would have never thought I would have went for 20 years beyond that.
You know what that is? That is a sign of sanity. Because if you
Well,
get up at an early age and you want to beat people up for a living, by the way, what did your family say when you said, mom, dad, or your wife, whatever the case may be, I want to beat people up for a living? What did they say?
I never told a single person when I did my very first cage event for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I did not tell a single family member, not even the better half at that point in time. I just simply said, I'm going to go off because they were used to be traveling for teaching and things of that nature already. I just said, oh, I've got to head off for the weekend, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of wrestling on top of that. But I'll say two of my uncles stumbled onto this product by mistake, and they called over to my parents' place. And they first heard my father's name is Marvin, and my uncles are like, Marv, do you know where your boy's at? And first they had this. My father had to ask which one because I have four of the brothers, and they're saying, well, Danny, and uh, my father's like, well, is it down in Coldwater? And my uncle's like, no, he's about to climb in this cage and he's about to do this crazy thing. And my father's like, what the blankety blank? And yeah, so I'll say that I surprised everybody by what I was doing. But on the same note there, John, when I came home from that event, I had a message to call your father. And that's never a good message to receive.
So now, in the early days of the MMA, the pay wasn't that great for a lot of guys. How did these guys survive financially during the lean years?
I can't tell how they did it. I mean, that was just I was like a journeyman. It was just something that I simply had on my schedule that I simply worked in somehow. I might be out doing a professional wrestling match. I might be teaching an amateur wrestling clinic. And then, oh yeah, by the way, by this Saturday, I'm going to be climbing into a cage at whatever country that I would be in at the time.
Yeah, the operative word there is cage because when you hear cage, that raises everybody's eyebrows.
Well, again, very unique competition where a normal ring would not have subdued, would not have uh, dealt well for the athletes because grappling was part of it. So if they would have been into a normal boxing ring, they could have hit those ropes. They could have fallen over the ropes, fall through the ropes, or slide underneath them. So the cage, even though it has that uh, I don't know decline of civilization type look to it of two being in a death match or something like that, but it was actually for the safety of the athletes.
Was being a fighter a huge advantage when it came to meeting women? I know you were married, but for most guys.
No, I actually never would bring that up in conversation. I mean, really, just even in most social type settings, I just didn't travel to go to see parties and social functions like that. I mean, I had a very, I don't know, just a very busy schedule.
Now, once again, I know you were married, but who had better looking groupies? Was it the MMA or the WWF?
Oh, I would say they both have theirs, but I think that there's way more in the wacky world of professional wrestling.
Now, what was your first pro MMA fight like? Do you remember the moment stepping in that ring or
Oh yes,
that
be
octagon?
Ultimate Fighting Championships #4. I
Yeah.
mean, it was not as big or as popular at the time. So, whereas now they could sell out, multiple thousands of people in seated these big auditoriums and stuff like that. But back then, I would say between 3,000 and 5,000 people, between 3,000 and 5,000 people would be a standard type of an audience. So, I mean, I at that point in time, I'd been in front of bigger amateur wrestling audiences when I would travel internationally to Russia, Bulgaria, Mongolia, or some other place.
Now, I remember pre UFC, they used to sell these fights on VHS tapes. This is the very early days. This was
Oh
back when,
yes,
in between rounds, a guy with a mop would come into the ring and he'd swab the blood off the ring. You felt you were watching a crime in progress.
yeah, no, it definitely was especially in the beginning, it was not for the faint of hearted because, like I said, it what's known as mixed martial arts today, which has either 47 or 49 rules, but back then it was known as NHB, which stood for no holds barred, and they only basically abided by two rules: no biting, no eye gouging into the rules, and even then, those were not rules. They were not grounds for disqualification. They would be like, slap your hand. Okay, give him his eyeball back, John, and don't do that again. Yeah.
That was just amazing. What was the worst injury that you ever received in the MMA? Or did you?
None in MMA, but in the professional wrestling, I've been hurt. Like I said, I've been hurt far worse in professional wrestling than I ever was in mixed martial arts.
That's interesting. So,
Yes.
so WWE wrestler Jim Hacksaw Dugan once told me that he knows quite a few formerly successful wrestlers who are now broke and sleeping on park benches. He told me something I'll never forget. He said, "It's not how much you make, it's how much you can hold on to that counts." What are your thoughts on that?
Well, no, I would say that Jim, again, I've been on shows with Jim before. I really, a great character. Um, it's like anyone in life. I mean, there are successful men and successful women that they still don't have the same type of fortitude to see down the road, realize, I better start investing some money. I better start saving some money. I need to do more than what this is because a lot of professional athletes, they think they sign this big multi-million-dollar type of contract. They think it's going to last forever, but the reality is your career will be cut short.
Yeah.
And most of them don't realize how short that really will be.
So, how difficult was it for you to transition from the MMA world to the world of the WWF? Was it a difficult
Well,
transition?
it wasn't because I was a professional wrestler first as of 1992. Then I jumped into the Ultimate Fighting Championship. But a lot of people did not know about it until I jumped into the WWF with Vince McMahon and his organization. So that's the true progression of my career.
Which sport paid better, WWF or the MMA?
Professional wrestling.
Yeah. Yep.
Sadly, I say that, but it's
Yeah.
kind of like you're an actor, you're an actress, so you're being paid for your skills and ability.
Without getting into specific numbers, were you paid twice as well? Were you paid 10 times as well? What would you guess in the
Well,
WWF?
no, I mean because it was basically over you were contracted labor over the course of the year. So I mean, I had a very unique. I had actually had a very unique contract because I only had X number of matches that I agreed to do, or X number of dates that I would give for them. So I was on a very unique situation right out of the gate. So and I was unlimited, meaning that I was not restricted, so that I could work for other professional wrestling companies. So I was working for the National Wrestling Alliance at the same time. I was working for the Ultimate Fighting Championship. I was working for other fight companies, and I was working for other professional wrestling companies. So I had a very unique contract at the time, but at the same token, Vince McMahon did not realize how old I was. If he did, he probably would not have had any interest in me in the first place because I was way beyond his normal years that he would be looking for talent.
Yeah, I mean, given the length of your career, I really don't see a lot of damage. I mean, your nose is on the front of your face, it's not on your forehead. You know, it's it's amazing.
John, I'm a big believer in the theory of duck, and it is tis better to give than receive. So I'm more. I have a big heart. I'm a giver. I'm a giver. Okay.
There you go. So, as a producer, I work with a lot of actors, and I can tell you that I am amazed by how much money some of these A level and B level actors make at these celebrity autograph shows. In fact, Mike Tyson was just at a show a couple of weeks ago, and he had thousands of people in line waiting for a photograph, and he was charging, I believe, $140 per photo. Have you ever thought about doing the celebrity autograph show circuit?
Well, I would. I think I need an agent in that field, there, John. I'm not. I'm not offended by money whatsoever.
Yeah, that's a very healthy attitude. But by
Yes.
the way, there were a lot of other celebrities there, and not everybody had a massive line in front of them. But for some reason, Larry Holmes, Michael Spinks, Mike Tyson, of course, just drew very, very long lines. So something to keep in mind. Did you enjoy your time in the WWF, or was it more difficult than most people can ever imagine? And
No,
did
no.
that prevent you
I
from enjoying
enjoyed
it?
it for. I enjoyed it for what it was. The hard part about it was I think the creative team was a little bit lost as to how to use me. But then, the shortcomings on my part is I did not know how much influence I had on my character as well. So it's something that I mean I have a lot more knowledge about it now. If I could go back in time, I would try to do things, but we don't have that luxury of going back in time with the new knowledge that we have acquired. So I did the best I could, and I'm sure they were trying to do the best ideas they had at the time. It just didn't work out all that well. I mean, I worked for the number one professional wrestling company in the world at the time. I was used really well in the beginning, but it's kind of like I think they just got lost as to how to use me from a certain point on.
Just out of curiosity, when you're out in public, are most people polite with you, or does everybody want to wrestle and fight you when
No,
they
no,
see
no,
you?
no, no. I mean, I say you are kind of what you give, and I'm a nice person, and I treat everyone just nice, and that's the same type of respect I tend to get back. I mean, most people, when after they've talked to me for a few minutes, or they will say the comment, "You're not at all like I thought you would be." And I'm
Mhm.
like, well, you mean I'm not frothing at the mouth? I'm not, growling and barking at you, something like that, like we're ready to tangle. And they're like, well, kind of, sort of. And I never, and again, I'm not from the combat world per se. I'm not from that fight world,
Mhm.
but I have been a competitor my entire life. So there's a different mindset. I'm calculating. I knew I was never going to win battles with my fist. I simply knew that you had to be within arm's reach to punch, legs range to kick, knee or elbow. I was good about staying out of range and then using my grappling ability, my amateur wrestling background to win matches.
So, what was the most gratifying thing about being a pro wrestler, and what was the most difficult part of it?
Real gratifying, I guess, is when you walk out into an arena and you have thousands of people cheering for you. I mean, that's a great feeling right there. The most difficult portion is the fact that you are on the road quite a bit. I mean, each morning that you wake up, it's kind of like as you wake up, you rub the sleep out of your eyes, and you look around wondering, okay, where am I at, and what is my function today, and living out of a planner. I mean, I still live out of a planner even today to know what I have going on.
Yeah. I'm going to name some recent fighters to you, and I want you to tell me what you think of them, okay?
Okay.
So, first
Hopefully, I've
name,
watched some of them.
first one, John Jones. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, again, John Jones he was and still is a phenomenal talent that is a little misguided. What I mean by that is that he has had probably more trouble with law enforcement than he has with anything else, and he's made some pretty poor choices. So I think he needs either a better circle of friends or advisors helping him out.
Conor McGregor.
Again, one of these people that grasped onto. He saw the power of verbiage and actions of how he could move people, but then I think quickly forgot where he came from. He just he's an alter ego of what he once was. He was actually a decent human being when he first began, and now it's kind of like a bit of a shit now.
You know, I was a fan of his. I really was. And then I saw a video of him overseas walking into a bar and asking the man at the bar, an elderly man, I'm guessing in his late
Yes,
60s, asking him to have a drink with him. And the man didn't want to. And then he punched the old guy.
yes.
And at that moment, I knew exactly what he was and who he was. And I lost all respect for him. I really did.
Well,
Uh,
again, that same scenario that you're talking about, I think he actually overheard the gentleman also making a couple of comments about a recent whiskey that Conor McGregor was coming out with as well. So there's a few other comments along there. I'm aware of the story that you're talking about right now.
yeah. But no matter what was said, you still don't punch a guy that's two, three
No,
times your age.
no, we don't. We live in a civilized world now, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. George St. Pierre.
Again, Canadian Canadian born, did not have any ability. I should say, did not have any knowledge of amateur wrestling. Got involved in the sport of amateur wrestling to the point he was so good that he could have made the Olympic um, wrestling team. I always liked the way he portrayed himself because he was a martial artist, but then he spoke well, and again he represented the sport very well.
I always thought I liked the way he conducted himself with civility, politeness,
Yep.
always a professional. When I see him on Rogan, once again, very professional, very modest. You would never in a million years guess that this guy was a killer. Never.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Stipe,
Nice guy.
Stipe Miocic, what are your thoughts?
Um, I couldn't give you much here right now because even though I know the name, I can't even tell you any of the
Okay.
matches.
Okay. What do you think of the way Mike Tyson has reignited his career and his life in his 50s now? You know, with the
Well, I again,
exhibition matches?
I think it was good. It was a good thing. First off, he lost lots of money due to the management that he had, and I think he was in hock to the IRS for multiple millions of dollars, but he was been able to uh, take care of all of his debts and that, and he's now back into the plus column. He had to recreate himself
Mhm.
and realize that he can no longer really be Mike Tyson, the killer inside that ring. He's got to be a different type of killer outside the ring, and he's doing a fantastic job.
By the way, he's got this podcast called Hot Boxing. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but Mike is much smarter and wiser than anybody would ever imagine. He's
Oh,
really,
again, I'm
he's
not I'm
really
not aware of
intelligent.
what he's doing right now. So
Yeah. Now, if you were to get into the ring with Mike Tyson tomorrow for an obscene amount of money for a boxing match, what would your strategy be to defeat him?
well, first off, I mean, John, I had to stop you there. I would not be jumping into a boxing ring to do boxing with Mike Tyson. As I stated earlier, these are not my skill sets. Now, if he gets that, he gets that one chance to take a pop at me, and then I get to use my grappling skills. Oh, I'll take that chance, yes.
Yeah.
But no, no.
What do you think of Jake Paul?
Um, yeah, well, twofold. First off, he's using some great tools that are available today that were not available just a few years back. He's a social media marketer that has done very well for himself, for creating wealth and media attention. Now, do I like the way he conducts himself? No, but then I don't know the man. He might actually be nicer than what I preconceive here right now, but I don't like the way he goes about his business.
Who was the toughest fighter you ever fought, and what made him such a nightmare?
Well, I mean, for me, it would have been going up against another person that had a great deal of grappling ability, like a Ken Shamrock, like a Mark Coleman, because I was a one trick pony. I only had my grappling ability. I did not train to strike.
By the way, just out of curiosity, who are your best friends these days? Are they other fighters, or are they just everyday people that you've grown up with? Who are the people you trust most, you care about most, and that you believe in most these days?
I'd say the people I grew up with before I was anybody, the people that I grew up with that I still stay in contact with.
Yeah.
Wrestlers, when I coached, fellow teammates on my high school teams, fellow teammates on my college team, because who was I? I was nobody other than just another athlete
Mm.
with them. So again, those are the people that I probably in the most contact still to this day.
Now, you starred in a long list of movies and TV shows. How did you get started in that career? And do you enjoy it as much as you did the fight game, or does the fight game still hold your heart?
Well, again, the fight game never held my heart. It was muddy. It was muddy and skill sets that I could do, and that's what I did it for. My amateur wrestling career will be probably the number one thing that I will hold in the most highest esteem in my athletic career ability, because it opened the door for everything else. It paid for me to go to college, John, in the first place.
Mm.
I stated earlier, I have seven other brothers and sisters. So asking mom or dad for money to go to college never entered my mind. So knowing that I have a gift in the sport of wrestling, and using that tool to go to college. But then I've traveled the entire United States. I've traveled the world utilizing my sport. It allowed me to jump into the wacky world of professional wrestling. It enabled me to go into the cage fighting world. And even now, because of that same kind of work ethic that goes along with being a successful athlete, is the same drive that keeps me going even today on what I do, and on my own personal basis. I still go and work out, and I still do a lot with business and a lot of other types of groups. So I love the life I've carved out for myself.
Now, here's an unconventional question for you. What is your astrological sign?
I'm a Gemini.
Gemini. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
twice as fun.
Interesting. Well, that's why you enjoy different worlds like fighting and business. It's the duality of the Gemini, you know? Uh,
Like, you're two different people in one. Is that what you're trying to
yeah,
say?
sometimes three different personalities, Geminis are extremely outgoing. I have a lot of Gemini friends, extremely outgoing, get along with everybody. So it doesn't surprise me. Now, what were the movies and TV shows that you made that you enjoyed most?
Well, I can't even really remember. There were always bit roles that I played in them. I'm actually trying to go into that career just a little bit more now. I mean, towards like, why not jump into that industry more and more? Because when you look at professional wrestling, what are you there? You're an actor, you're an actress, you're a stunt person, because you know how to be thrown, you know how to throw people, and you know how to land. So I'm looking to explore in that industry a little bit more to see, maybe I could carve out my own little niche in that market.
Yes. So now you have a successful website called dansevern.com. Can you tell us about it and some of the services that you provide?
Well, again, probably the biggest thing I do there, John, is I do a lot of traveling, a lot of teaching. So still teaching the sport of amateur wrestling, my first love, but then teaching the other two styles of wrestling, freestyle, Greco-Roman. But then I do I work with law enforcement, corrections, air marshal, border patrol, military. They all have some sort of a ground combatives component. And back in 1995, I was basically sought out by different groups as being an expert in those fields. And then, the biggest difference is going from wearing an outfit that I would have competed inside of a cage with, which is usually just a pair of trunks, to where now I have to put on entire full military gear or put on the full SWAT team uniform, and then to show them how mechanically different ways of trying to move with all this various types of gear on. So again, just all depends on what you have to wear as to what restricts your movement.
By the way, where do you enjoy living most, Michigan or Arizona?
Well, this time of year, Arizona, because it's getting cold and the snow will be coming in relatively soon. So I'd rather be in the Valley of the Sun during my winter months. But rest assured, I will be right back in Michigan for spring, summer, fall because it gets mighty hot in Arizona in the summertime.
By the way, that cow you used to milk as a kid, is that cow still alive?
Oh, that cow was made into hamburger many decades ago. Yes.
So I don't know what it is about Arizona, but a lot of celebrities I know, a lot of professional athletes, and even some people in the witness protection program all love relocating there. So there must be something magical going out there.
Well, I don't know about a couple of those areas, but I said, I came out here originally for uh, going to college at Arizona State, fell in love with the diverse scenery because I always tell people that down in and say where Tempe, Arizona is where Arizona State University is located at. If I wanted to go see snow during wintertime, all I had to do was travel a couple hours north up into Flagstaff. I could see snow. Then coming back out into Phoenix, and the sun is shining. So it's kind of like going. It's kind of nice you can go see it and then leave it again. Living in it, four or 5 months out of the year back in Michigan was a little too much.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, before we wrap things up, are there any projects or anything else that you would like to tell the people about?
Well, basically, I've involved in a number of things here with the health industry that I think might rock some of the big pharmaceutical companies because we're not going to be pushing pills and things of the nature. We're just looking at things a little bit more done that will be less invasive to the body and probably be a whole lot more helpful and healthy for the human body. So again,
But
these are things that I'm not going to go into too much detail out right now because some of the things I've been using some of these things for the last 20 some years of my own life, and they've paid off in huge dividends already for me. So I know they'll do it for the average person more than they will do for a person who has used their body a lot more than what the normal person has.
by the way, that brings up an interesting point. How did you stay healthy and strong throughout your career? Did you eat natural food? Did you drink a lot or did you avoid alcohol? Did you exercise daily, every other day? Tell me about your regime.
Well, again, if you would saw like my freshman year at Arizona State, when I took my very first class, I took a nutrition class, and
Mhm.
literally I changed a lot of my eating habits even as a freshman in college because I wasn't eating exactly uh, the right way that I should be, but then also changing those eating habits as one grows older.
Mhm.
It just John, the reality is life is divided into two halves, and most people don't realize this. And the little rhyme goes like this: in the first half of your life, you're going to destroy your health while trying to acquire wealth. In the second half of your life, you will spend that wealth trying to reacquire your health.
Yeah,
And
that's
in the
very true.
end,
Very true.
you'll spend it all because you can't take it with you. And I always tell people that when you die, look at that medicine cabinet and look at all the different prescriptions that that person was on, and then look at their nightstand. Look at the additional prescriptions that they were on. Did they die of natural causes, or did they die of maybe too many chemical cocktails, maybe dementia, Alzheimer's, something like that? Did they take a second and a third dose or a fourth dose in the process? So you're talking to someone right here, right now, that I take an occasional aspirin, if that, and that's about it. I just don't believe in a lot of this stuff because The United States is a very medicated country in so many ways.
You know what's interesting? I've never smoked, drank, or done drugs in my entire life. And I was made fun of in school because of that. But when I look back now, all the people who did that earlier in life, their lives are now train wrecks physically. Train
Yes,
wrecks. They're on all the meds you can imagine. And the people who took better care of themselves are now reaping the dividends. So
yes.
it does make a difference. Well,
Well, again,
Dan,
that's the same, John. I'm a lot like you the same ways that I was not. I didn't smoke. Did when it comes like beer. I tried beer a couple times. Oh, I hated the taste. And they're like, well, all my buddies are like, oh, well, you gotta keep drinking. You gotta acquire the taste. I'm thinking, are you acquiring the taste, or are you just killing off taste buds? I don't like it. I'm not gonna do it. So again, I always tell people I'm not a prude, but I'll do certain things like a well mixed margarita or something like that. Avoid very well, but only once in a great while will I
but you
do
know
something
what?
like that.
Being a prude can allow you to live longer. It really
Yes,
can.
exactly.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for coming on the John Ark Show. You're a legend among legends, and I suspect that your best days and achievements are still ahead of you. I want to wish you all the best for coming on the John Ark Show, my friend, and you're always welcome back.
Well, thank you, John, for having me in the first place.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.